Broadcasting live from UNLV. KUNV Las Vegas.
That's how we already know.
91.5, The Rebel HD2.
There we go. All right. ACAB Radio in the house. I just want to remind everybody we are listener supported. 91.5 The Rebel HD2, KUNV Las Vegas. I'm going to drop the request line as well. If you want to call in and chime in on the conversation, it's 702-895-3915. Yeah, a lot of amazing people doing amazing work on the front lines. And that's why we had to bring y'all along, because y'all are doing amazing things. Every time I go to one of your events, everything you all talk about just resonates with me so much. So I do thank you for putting your body on the line and putting in the time and effort to educate folks and just make our community better. So I appreciate you.
Absolutely. Yeah, likewise, Joey. We feel the same way about you, and we're all along the same lines, kind of just anarchist, and so we all feel each other, and we all kind of head the same way. So I think that's why we all get along so well.
Definitely. So I got Soul on the line. If you throw the headphones on, you'll be able to hear. I'm going to turn your mics on now. All right. Soul, you still there?
Yes, I am.
Cool. Can y'all hear her?
Yep.
Yeah. Beautiful. Tanisha in the house. Good to
Thank
see
you.
It's been a while since I last saw you.
Yes,
Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
what up, sis?
I really wanted to definitely plug the event coming up. Y'all having another amazing event on the 1st. So if y'all want to talk about that a bit.
So you go first. It's your baby.
Yeah, absolutely. November 1st, actually it occurs on the 31st, the 1st and the 2nd. It's Day of the Dead. And so Day of the Dead, just to kind of give you a little background, the way I describe it is kind of like just this cultural quilt, or like this cultural mashup. And it started with, Aztecs and indigenous people some 300 years ago before, Columbus arrived. And, back then they would have feast days and they would celebrate death as a part of life. And it was just a huge deal, and they had gods and goddesses that they believed that were in charge of death. And it just was a huge celebration for them. And then, of course, to follow that, you have Spanish colonization. So enter Catholicism, and then, you have saints and things that they believe in, and traditional holidays like All Saints Day and All Souls Day. So,
right.
What happens when indigenous people are colonized, they merge together. So,
right.
The Aztec gods and goddesses, now are associated with Catholic saints, and, they took All Saints Day and All Souls Day and they merged it with what, the Aztec indigenous peoples had, Day of the Dead, and now it's just this huge holiday, right, that is celebrated greatly in Mexico, and now that we're celebrating here. So, we wanted to incorporate the work we do, with, against police terrorism, and honor those that we go out there every day for. And so that's kind of, we wanted to put it out there, and it turned into a collaborative effort. So we're thankful for everybody, but we're going to have Day of the Dead, and we're going to build an altar on November 1st. Collectively, we've got not bombs involved.
Giving you that music for your soul.
Sorry. That ad is just like queued up to play at 6:25. I forgot to pause.
I thought it was my phone. I'm like, okay.
I know, me too. I'm like, what? Wait, what is that?
Was it me?
Technical difficulties. But basically, we're going to have to take a break here in a second to play that ad. But yeah, no, I love it. The ofrenda, we're going to have what else? Photos. You were talking about vendors coming out.
Yeah.
Open
We've got
mic.
some vendors that
Open mic.
Yeah.
Open mic, yeah.
Yes.
Hopefully have some art and some art supplies. So it's come together beautifully. It really has.
I love, it's an outdoors. It's at Lorenzi Park. people can bring blankets and just, socially distance, bring masks, and we can still gather. You just do it the right way, right? Outdoors.
Yeah.
So
if you're listening in, definitely bring, blankets, bring some chairs, and it's a big spacious area. We got plenty of space.
So Nipsey Memorial Park, also known as Lorenzi, the people have reclaimed or renamed that park, in honor of Nipsey Hussle. So that's where we'll be the show. And Joey mentioned social distancing, but hopefully the state will keep their distance from our ass. That's what we really want. We need state distance around this motherfucker.
That's right.
Yeah. Organize the state out of the park for a minute.
Man, hopefully so.
Yeah. Why don't you all talk about the group? Organize the state out. Why that name? And start there, I guess.
Well, organize the state out it's kind of just like what it is. You know what I mean? Can we organize the people to be, self-sufficient, self-determined,
Yes.
organizing our own goals, around our own ideas by our own definitions and, with the resources within the people as well. So, it's pretty much the thinking around it, you know what I mean? That we can take control of our communities. We can protect our own communities, we can provide for our own communities, so that obviously centers around education, accurately depicting and retelling our history. And, of course, dealing with police, and organizing them out. And what's interesting is Cop Block is one of the first organizations that I kind of encountered years ago that kind of had this, ideology of we don't need police. And I have to admit that at one point I was like, well, how? You know what I mean? How does that work, though? You know what I mean? I thought it was kind of extreme. You know what I mean? But more, as I became more, close with the work and obviously doing what we do, it became like that's not just an ideology, it's not just an idea, it's something that has to happen. You know what I mean? Like it is needed. We're literally dealing with, American terrorism. And
Yes.
We need to absolutely block that out. Block it out, organize it out.
Yes.
All the above, yes indeed.
Yeah, it's one of those things, and like I don't want to speak for you, but lately there's been a lot of attention about like defund the police and that sort of thing, and one of the things about that is you always get this question like, how can we survive without policing? And it's not that we won't have any sort of policing within our communities, it's just that we'll have control of that policing.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly. More community oversought, so to speak, you know what I'm saying? Like, and determined, you know what I mean? And obviously not, attacking, the people. And it's just, it's crazy to me, like, this is people's jobs to go out and literally, I was in court today.
Same.
Traffic court, criminal court got continued, so y'all know for now, you know what I'm saying?
Okay,
that
that's
attack
good.
is still real. I think we need to talk a little bit more. We've been talking too about organizing, some real tactical, but impactful ways to get our stories out and, make some demands, on the state that some of these bogus charges are
Drop the
fucking
charges.
dismissed.
Drop them
Right.
all.
Drop
Beat
the
'em all.
charges.
Real talk.
And that's the
Yes,
thing
indeed.
about it is that it's not that we won't have, some sort of control over crime in our communities. We don't have control over people. We don't have really control over crime now. We have people that go out and claim to police for us. But the thing is, it's the priorities and the reasoning behind that policing. A lot of times it's not to protect the community, it's to control the community.
Absolutely.
And what we want, we want self-defense based policing and community controlled policing, not these random people going out and harassing people and
Yes.
trying to create, generate funds for the state to turn around and use against us. So we're funding our own
Neocolonialism,
oppression.
right? You know what I mean? Neocolonialism. You know what I'm saying? Motherfuckers say you ain't really against slavery. You just want your turn to hold the whip. You know what I'm saying? And that's what we don't want to see mimicked. You know what I mean? And that's why we're even careful not to even use the word police, like politicize even our terms. We want to protect our communities. We want to serve our communities. You know what I'm saying? So even some of those terms being careful with. You know what I mean? We're not even adapting their definition and or their terms. Period. We determine it ourselves. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And come up with better ways to describe it to the community. And that way you differentiate yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like police, no, not at all. You know what I'm saying? We are in no way, shape, or form even trying to replicate that, you know?
It's a systemic societal thing that people grow up believing that they need these police out there. And people have to get together and talk and realize what we need and how we can accomplish that. So that they don't feel like they need somebody oppressing them in order to be safe.
Right, exactly. Well, you use the word crime, you know what I'm saying? Even that, you know, so-called crime, you know what I'm saying? Because we know what they do. They hem up youngsters for jaywalking, you know, from their house to their homie's house. You know what I'm saying? And that's the crime. You know what I'm saying? So like you said, when we get some of that oversight, you know, where we're there to protect one another, you know, some of this minimal things that they use to really mark, you know, our youngsters with felonies and, you know, keep them entrapped in the systems, usually from the age 12 up, you know, we can start deferring that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Absolutely.
And understanding the process by which that. So they start putting people within the police system and the judicial system as a way of holding them down, a way of, for instance, if you can get somebody to have a felony on their record, then they're not allowed to carry a weapon anymore.
Right.
So they're not allowed to defend themselves anymore.
Right.
And they can't vote, so they can't control who's controlling them. They can't hold those people accountable. So there's a whole systemic way that they go about oppressing people and oppressing certain communities and certain cultures. And like I said, you have to get together and you have to understand what your other options are, and you have to understand that we can actually defend ourselves.
Right.
And that the people that claim to be defending us aren't often.
Absolutely. I do like the idea when you said self-defense based too. Like, think about like the fire department. Like if we had a volunteer community safety force, you know, that they're not out patrolling all the time like saturation teams do, right? But are called upon when they need assistance, like somebody calls 911 now, versus just like constant doing patrols and highway patrol, like sneakily hiding somewhere where you can't see them, so that if you're speeding, like, you know, we don't need all the revenue generation. We don't need you out there. We don't need you out there at all, really, unless we call you for something. You know what I mean? So some kind of
I think in Oakland, sorry to cut you off, Joey, but Oakland has just recently established, I think it was the anti-police terror project. I don't want to mispronunciate, but they recently started, you know, they have this mobile, you know, these people that are, you know, these psych people, and they're, you know, putting it out, and they're saying, hey, listen, if you're having any issues, if you're having mental issues, you know, call us first. You know, we're well trained in this. We know what we're doing. Don't call the police, call us.
That's how you organize the state out, for sure, is create alternative systems.
They got a van, they've got a shift. You know what I mean? They're switching it out, so they're always covered.
And they're available. I think they are, you know, one of the contradictions they exposed, because the state tried to introduce, or some GMO, you know, I'm not sure exactly what the state or some GMO tried to introduce, GMO, government-made organization, tried to introduce, you know, their way of doing it, but they were available Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. And so I did see or read of an interview with Anti-Police Terror where, you know, one of the founders was saying, you know, well, that's good if you have your, you know, mental emergency between, you know, daytime hours Monday through Friday, then, you know, you should be good, you know, maybe, you know what I'm saying? So that was one thing they prided themselves on. And I think, you know, again, heightening that contradiction on the state that, you know, look, we're going to be available whenever you need us. You know, it can't be put into this cookie cutter box, but, you know.
And that's one of those things where the riots are going on right down in Philadelphia, or at least they're being labeled as riots. But the family that was involved in the person that was murdered, and I don't actually know their name right now, but they called for an ambulance to come and help because he was having a mental issue.
Mr. Wallace, yes, indeed.
They sent the police. And if you watch the video, the person, you know, the thing that they're just using to justify is he had a knife, but he was far enough away they had plenty of time to do other things. They had plenty of other options. They had their supposed less lethal options that they never even tried to use.
Right.
So the thing is, they called for help with a family member who was having a medical issue, and they sent the police out and they murdered him.
Yeah.
In front of his mother.
And
all
even
those
if you
gunshots,
look at the video, I'm
like-
sorry, Joey. Even if you look at the video, even the way, the quick interaction you see, you know, they didn't even respond in a professional or a tactical manner. You know what I'm saying? If you're going out to a call where someone, why did they walk right up onto it?
Yeah.
You know what I'm
No
saying? Why did they
de-escalation
interfere? Right off the top. You know what I'm saying? They should have off the top took a standoff type of.
And
you know
that's,
what I'm saying?
that's almost a cliche at this point with the police, is they show up and they antagonize somebody who's already having a mental issue instead of trying to help them.
Exactly. They don't know how to deal with it, you know, and simply don't know how to de-escalate. We already know that over and over again. Yes, for sure. But I think Joey touched on just the resources part, and that's what I was saying. I was in court today, and it happened to be traffic court on this particular part of it. But, you know, it was like a cash machine. I always, like, picture it as literally a cash register. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Here's your fine. You have 90 days to pay it, pay it. Here's your fine. You have 90 days to pay it, pay it, pay it. And anybody that was actually saying, no, not guilty, they're like, are you sure? Like, I don't know how many times this lady must have asked this lady if she wanted a trial, you know, and she's like, yeah, not guilty. Well, that's what you're going to have to do. Okay, not guilty. Well, you know, you're going to have to, okay, not guilty. You know what I'm saying? I want to go to trial, because they're so, not used to seeing that. They're used to people just taking their fines, not knowing the process, not knowing their rights. And all you hear is the judge just cha-chinging for them over and over again. You know what I'm saying? So within a few minutes of sitting in traffic court, you know, you see $10,000 made by the state.
Oh, easy. Yeah.
You know, so it's definitely a business. You know what I mean? And unfortunately, everyone in the courtroom with me today was black or brown. You know what I'm saying? That's no coincidence. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if you go down every morning to the courthouse, they back a
That's what you
Brinks
see.
truck up to the steps.
Yeah.
And my personal experience, I got a ticket, and this is probably 5 years ago, for not having a bright enough light on my bike. I went down there, and I'm like, I'm going to court, you know. And so I pled not guilty, and the judge is like,
What?
do you want to come back? You know, you want to come back next week? And I'm like, no. So I thought he was going to, I thought at that point he was going to dismiss it, because I'd already had 3 or 4 other tickets where they harassed me on my bike. And that's what usually happens. They just dismiss it because it's not worth their effort.
Yeah.
And they count on the fact that most people are just going to go to the window and pay it and not even go to court.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Right.
Yep.
But so he actually, it's like he was trying some kind of Jedi mind trick on me. He's like, plead guilty. And I'm like, no, you know. And the bailiff started laughing, you know, because it was like that. It was like they never saw anybody wanting, like, insisting they're going to go to court.
You're an anomaly.
Yeah, and he's like, he said like twice to me, like, plead guilty. And I'm like, no, I'm going to court. And then he dismissed it. So knowing he was going to dismiss it, he tried to get me to plead guilty.
That's his job.
That's hilarious.
That's his job, you know, and that's, you know, we recently saw some of our comrades in the community doing even this judge panel that happened a couple weeks ago. You know, I got a chance to watch it, and it's interesting, you know, because there is that, it's, you know, that part of it, like, okay, you know, these judges are going to be there, you know, I guess, and we're probably going to have to be in front of them because we push up against this shit. They're going to keep attacking us with, you know, these type of measures, you know, as far as ticketing, you know what I'm saying? That's definitely a tactic to drain the people of our resources, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, we're catching flights and having to, you know, arrange transportation and get babysitting for our children and missing work, and every part of it drains our resources, you know, maybe losing employment, maybe, you know, having access to driving taken or whatever, you know, it's an attack. It's a state attack. But definitely, I lost my train of thought.
Well, I want to say I don't, as an anarchist, I don't vote for like rulers or masters, but you know what? Voting is absolutely the least you can do, right?
I believe so too.
Right.
So when it comes to local judges, like, this is gonna be the first time that I'm actually gonna vote for judges, because I got 4 open cases right now, like, facing prison time. Like, it is real. These judges do have an impact and some say-so and some power. And it sucks, and it feels dirty to even be involved in, like, the state system and kind of, like, I feel like supporting it if you're voting. But yeah, it's only going to take, you know, one day, not even a whole day, to go and do it, and it'll have a positive impact.
Possibly, right. And
I will be
that's what was
selecting none of
interesting.
these candidates for president.
Exactly.
but-
That's the stand.
And
Right.
Nevada
You know,
is the
this
only state where you're legally allowed to vote
to
for
collect
nobody.
that. You know, I told Drea, my daughter the other day, we were just talking about that, and that's what we said. I said, well, Drea, let's go down and early vote so that we can take a defiant stand and mark none of the above on the presidential.
Boom.
But I think you're right about the judges, and I think that's what some of the comrades in the community were trying to show, and at least they were posing some of these more difficult questions to these judges. And even the fact that these judges were willing to come into that space with the people and even kind of take the hot seat is, somewhat admirable, because believe me, they had judges turning them down, like absolutely not. And so we should be looking at that. Who are the ones that are even willing to sit at the table with us, what I mean, and have those discussions.
Sure.
But I also feel like their hands are tied. Even today in traffic court, the guy his fine was $400. And he was saying, you know what, with COVID, everything, Judge, I can give you $300 today. Like, get this done. He's like, but I simply don't have $400. Like, that'll be my food money for this week. And the judge was kind of like, well, my hands are tied. It's $400. That's the fine. Wow. He said, so that's what is important to me. And I think some of the questioning that they did even on that panel was to show, like, okay, what power do you have then? If you're the judge, can you redesign your courtroom, to where you can make a program that's more beneficial to the people, you know what I mean? Or can you divert some of these people that may be sitting in jail to the community instead, to us instead, that have created, some sort of community program to take them in and help reform them rather than your fucking jail that's not going to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, real talking.
So they're bound by the law strictly for sure. So
Right.
it
And
does
that's what
take.
concerns me. Yeah, that's what concerns me. Absolutely.
It does take like getting laws passed that would allow them more wiggle room and more discretion, but they do have a lot of power and say so in the sentencing, but maybe fine minimums and maximums are like codified. You know what I mean? So they can't go beyond that or below a certain thing.
And that's one of the things, like, over the years I've preached, like, vote for nobody and, not relying on voting as your answer.
Right.
And that doesn't mean that I don't want anybody to vote. Like, go out, vote, do your thing, but don't think that voting is the answer.
End all. Exactly.
Like,
No,
voting
absolutely
is
not.
like Joey said, the very least that you can do.
Exactly.
Yeah, especially with these. So with these judges, getting these judges, that's a huge task. Is bringing them into these spaces, like you said. Commend them for coming and answering the difficult questions. But at the end of the day, they're just politicians, and politicians, it's a popularity contest. It's who I can tell the most people what they want to hear. You know what I'm saying? So the judges are doing it too. So a big part of the work, if you're going to play this game, which nobody seems to do, especially with judges, is track their record. Okay,
Yes,
so they
indeed.
told you that I'm not going to lock up black and brown folks. I'm going to bring the statistics down. So are you also going to monitor and see if they were like true to their word? Yeah, like
And they were what? They were law students before they were judges. They were attorneys.
Right.
Let's look at their record.
Prosecutors,
What
yeah.
one of the questions I posed, was, hey, what political prisoner campaign have you got on to free? You know what I'm saying? This is work you could have done as a law student or as an attorney. You know what I'm saying? What pro bono cases have you taken to help the people? You know what I'm saying? And what side, have you always worked for the state's office, or have you been a servant for the people during your tenure, even as an attorney? So we do have to look at that. You know what I'm saying? If a motherfucker has worked for the DA's office or whatever their entire career, that's telling to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, regardless if you feel bad or, you're trying to help the poor people because that's your job, your check is still signed by the state. You know what I'm saying? You're still a servant of the state. We say state pretender, you know what I mean, for a reason. You know what I'm saying? So, it's all good.
Indeed.
it gets slippery, which is,
Well, it's also another thing where it's a different approach, because instead of supporting a politician and begging them to help you, you put them in a position where you put pressure on them and you force them to do the right thing. Because when, MLK was out there in the 50s and the 60s and they were marching, the politicians didn't change their mind. They were put in a position where if they didn't do something, they were going to suffer consequences for it. And that's the reality of what needs to happen. It's not you elect this certain guy and he's going to fix everything.
And you know what? It wasn't all
exactly.
peaceful either. There was rioting and looting going on back then too. Like all that
Uprising and
plays a
resisting,
rule.
comrade. Uprising and
Exactly.
resisting.
Sorry,
Yes,
change
indeed.
the words. Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, that plays its role. It has it's what brings them to the table to actually talk about these. Just look around. There's just a laundry list of departments and legislators and laws that have been passed since the beginning of this uprising, that do you think if everything was peaceful and we were just singing Kumbaya with
Right.
with signs out on the sidewalks, like they were going to do all that? No, like we took that.
Right.
Like, yeah.
Me and Soul say all the time that people set the tone. You know what I mean? Like in anything, you know what I'm saying? We set the tone. You know, how many times have we been out in the street or doing a program in the community, you know, and police roll up and, you know, sometimes it's a conversation, sometimes it's worse, but you know what I mean? Or, you know, but we say, hey, your presence is interfering with this work we're doing here today. You know what I'm saying? If you could step the fuck back, if you could circle the block, I know you got a job to do, whatever. But right now, you'll actually deter people from being comfortable in this space. You know what I mean? So set that tone. Like, we don't want you here. You know what I mean? That's why we're not permitting and asking for you to be here. We're, you know, doing this work, you know, kind of on our own and, you know, defiantly, so to speak, you know. So,
hey, your last event, I was like, homie, you got to move your cars because there's so many cop cars here. There's nowhere for people to park.
No, that was some ridiculous shit, though.
Yeah.
You know that,
It was.
man, we had to put up a post about that and make a statement about that because not only was, you know, the police there, it was such a ironic view, like a damaging, just dysfunctional view to see these white men with guns at a play park. You know what I mean? Literally guarding the gate.
And locking all
And
the gates,
lock
so
the
we had
other
to.
gates,
Right.
so that we had to filter
Right.
through them.
Wow.
Here's your entrance. The babies had to filter to where when these, you know, little girls and boys were walking through the gate through these armed fucking, you know, fascist police, you know, that I was apologizing to the babies, you know, like, I'm sorry they're here. I'm sorry, you know what I'm saying? And that wasn't
And disabled people
man. And that
as
wasn't,
well.
that
Yeah,
wasn't for
homeboy
my
in the
feelings.
wheelchair.
That's for his. You know what I mean? That's for the police to hear that too, though. You heighten that shit even on them. You know what I'm saying? Like, damn, I am standing here at the gate like a fucking pig. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Indeed.
can we cuss?
No, we can't
My
cuss. So
bad.
I'm hitting the dump button every
My
time
bad.
you do, but hopefully it works.
My bad. I just thought of it because you know I got a potty mouth. My bad.
Just don't acknowledge it. Just, we're good. There were no cuss words.
I was asked if we were gonna
Hey,
if we
we're
were
on the
gonna
actual
create an
radio
event.
now, so we
Hey,
can't-
what do we say? We try to hang the sign every time, you know what I'm saying? Just so the people know the real curse words are racism, homelessness, you know what I'm saying? State terrorism, redlining,
There
you know
you
what I'm saying?
go.
Land
Yes.
grabbing, you know what I'm saying? That the poverty, those are the real curse words. That's what we really should be getting mad about, technically. You know what I'm saying? That's the words that should
Right.
be
And
messed
that's-
up.
But that's also another example of how the police create tension and hostility within the neighborhoods. You know, you're there sharing food with people that are in need. We've done Food Not Bonds picnics where the cops show up and start harassing people.
Yeah.
You're not there organizing and doing something that's even challenging. Well, it's challenging them, their authority, and it's challenging the idea that you need them.
Exactly.
But you're not doing what they would call a riot. You're not trying to do anything violent. You're
Yeah,
doing
it's
something to help
nonviolent.
the community.
Yes, indeed.
They show up and project hostility upon that.
Yeah.
And then, like, if you react to that, you're the one that's going to be in the wrong,
Yeah.
according to, you know.
Exactly. Well, that's
and
what
that's
they
why-
wanted that day.
Exactly. And that's why we have to
Yep.
just continue
They
to
were
go
waiting.
live and show it. You know what I'm saying? Show it. But not only were the police at the gate, but remember they sent that agent provocateur in there to hurt a black man. Let's send in this black skinned dude, you know what I mean? And see if he can calm her down or get them out of here or whatever the goal was. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You know what I mean? But it literally just an agent of them. You know what I'm saying? They had totally convinced him. He told me their story. They saved him a long time ago. Took him to Six Flags or some shit. You know,
Oh,
so
wow.
you know, a long time ago saved him. You know what I'm saying? So he's like, man, white cops is my savior. Like, what you talking about, girl? You know what I mean? Like, you know, so not only they had a first line of defense and a second line of defense and maybe a third and a fourth if we hadn't resisted, you know.
Right.
So, you know, but they stayed there and surveilled us. You know, it's one thing that we were talking about, you know, even the Tupac night, you know, literally there was undercover police and surveillance on 30 people peacefully memorizing Tupac. You know what I'm saying? Like, what? Why? You know what I'm saying? And it's funny when I was talking to, you know, one of the attorneys about that, you know, they mentioned cop block and the chalking. You know, like, oh, yeah, they'll create an entire case, you know what I mean, with chalking and peacefully playing music and memorizing, you know, people that came before us that were about the people. They'll create a case.
It's
They
not
got
the
resources.
activities. It's the message that we're putting out there. You know what I mean? That
indeed.
scares
What it
them
is,
for sure.
Yes.
if you're reaching people,
Yep.
especially if you're reaching who they
Right.
consider to be the wrong people, the people that could actually make a difference and could actually, create a community and challenge the police's authority and their PR image. They will. They did a 3-month investigation on us. It's been 8 years now, so but they did a 3-month investigation on us for writing with chalk on a sidewalk.
Right. Period.
But it was what you were writing. You know what I mean? It's what we're memorializing on Tupac's, his celebration of life.
Right.
It's the ideas that we're putting forth and just the ideology and the politic behind Food Not Bombs. Yep. That is all insurgency. You know what I mean? That is a threat. Mutual aid is a threat. It's like you said, you hit the nail right on the head, Kelly, when you said that it's the threat of like us realizing that we don't need them. If we create these alternative systems and we've got people fed, we've got their needs met. Yeah, it is a threat to their very existence. For sure.
Exactly.
We don't need them. Why are we allowing them to take all this money, all of the fruits of our labor, right? So,
Exactly. I think it's interesting right now, even with COVID, with all the children being homeschooled. And we're seeing, probably 20% of the effort, maybe if you consider the state, schooling program 100% offered, maybe 20% of that, being inserted through Zoom and whatever now, you know what I'm saying? But you best believe they're still getting 100% of their paycheck, right? They're not diverting any of those funds, these state and federal funds that they get, to individual households so that we're able to maybe stay off work or work part-time or whatever to, be able to supplement that other 80% that isn't happening. You know what I'm saying? So we're having to supplement this with no resource, so to speak, to how to do it, and there's no design to redirect that. So the state is not going to voluntarily redirect their resources. You know what I'm saying? The fact that Metro can put a 3-month investigation over a misdemeanor, type so-called crime, you know what I mean, is because they have access to way too many resources. You know what I mean? Way too many resources.
Indeed.
And then all this COVID money, we talked about it last week, Henderson used it to build up their entrance to their city hall, and then the city of Las Vegas used it for their own salaries, so they're not even putting that money back into the people. But one thing I wanted to touch on the schools real quick is, like, look at all these schools. It's beautiful. Since COVID, they're giving away all this free food for families that depended on that lunch program, right? But then think about it. Like, there's so much food that they're throwing away now because they don't know how many people are going to show up.
But they're still getting the full funds for it. Absolutely.
Yeah, they're getting the full funds for it. But then imagine, like, normally you would have to pay for this and you get a lunch debt and you can't, you get penalized. Like, you can do it for free. Obviously you're doing it now, but like when COVID goes away, you're going to start charging again. And then,
absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Contradictions.
I've gotten a couple of the lunch boxes, and what's unfortunate about it too is that, obviously it's a pre-prepared lunchbox or what have you. There's some foods in there that your child's not going to eat or what have you. You know what I mean? So there's been a couple of weeks where even I'm finding that I have no use for this food. What am I going to do with it? Because, you know what I mean? I can't throw it out. That's horrible. But where can I resource it to? Because,
I'd encourage folks to put it. There are 2 free fridges here in town. There's one at UMOC, which is at 1010 North Main Street. You can drop off any excess stuff that y'all kids don't want. Or if you don't even have kids, you can go to these schools and just pick it up. Kids don't even got to be with you. You can go pick it up, take it to these free fridges. There's one on Sweeney too. Just do a little search.
That's a really good idea. Absolutely.
Get the resource, take advantage of it. Liberate that food.
Yeah, and even in normal times, there's so much waste that they could literally feed everybody for free.
Oh, in-house, right? Yeah.
There's a teacher chiming in on my live, just to show you guys, and she's a teacher, and she said, you know what, we've actually, worked a lot.
91.5.
The Rebel HD2.
They're like, play the ad already. You got to
play the y'all got to go.
Right. But she said that, the teachers are really doing, they're overworked, and it's upper management that's still overpaid in excess amounts, of them.
Oh, for sure.
So, you've got this huge amount of administrative, and still teachers underpaid. So I agree with that, Christine. Thank you for that comment, for sure.
Yeah, we love our teachers. Y'all, that goes back into the military budget, Food Not Bombs, all the money that goes into the military. Also, they got money for these huge cases and surveillance teams and armored vehicles and
Touched
rubber
on
bullets.
saturation teams, yeah.
Like,
yes.
but the teachers got to fundraise for rulers and
Yeah,
pencils and
exactly.
notebooks and.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where's the priorities at? We got a new stadium that people can't even sit and watch a game in right now. Millions and millions went into that, but we don't have money for our children, the future. And that is all absolutely by design. Just like saturation teams and arresting folks, like breaking up the home, lower education. It's not an education system at all. It's an indoctrination system.
Yes,
So
indeed, yeah.
alternative systems, that's how we get back at them and take control of our own education, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, we're running out of time. Y'all
Let's
definitely
bring
got
that
to come
out.
back on though, because an hour is just not enough.
We could probably talk for a lot.
Right?
Yeah,
we could.
For a few hours, I'm sure.
Yeah. So yeah, I should
Well, thank
probably
you for having us. We really
play this.
appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming. Tenisha, Soul, thank you for calling in. And yeah, we'll do it again sometime. Even if y'all can't make it into the studio, we can do it over the phone. I think I got it down. I think if somebody else called, I could bring 2 callers on at once. I'm looking at it, and it's just, yeah, it's doable.
Okay, right on. We're available always. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, so any final thoughts? Definitely y'all come out on the 1st, Dia de los Muertos, Lorenzi Park. What time?
4?
4 p.m. is set up. It's going to start about 6 p.m.
Cool.
So
all right.
if you want to help set up, come at 4. If not, at 6. I do just want to, we kind of touched on it very briefly. If you've got any citations or if you got charges, at least reach out to somebody on this call and you're listening so that we can kind of group together on that, right?
Yeah. Yes. Anybody who's been arrested at protests lately, I know there was just one the other day. The homeboy got arrested, and they hit him with bogus charges too. So
maybe drop the email, Soul, and that goes for traffic as well, because I know that part of the attacks when we started trying to caravan and for COVID, then they started issuing out tickets. So we have some contacts for getting those traffic tickets resolved as well.
Yes.
So if you could email us.
Yeah, our email is OTSO, OTSOC for coalition, LV at gmail.com.
Okay.
So OTSOCLV@gmail.
Got it. Organize the state out. OTSOCLV@gmail.com.
Yes,
Cool,
indeed.
cool.
You got it.
Is there like a way to donate to the group for like events like Sundays? Like a Cash App or Venmo or something?
That email is connected to our PayPal.
Cool.
And then
Cash
I know
App
that
is
he's got a
Organize the State Out
Cash
too.
App.
Yep. Organize the state out as well.
Cool. Perfect. Yeah, thank you all for coming on, and we definitely got to do it again sometime. I'm going to play this ad super late. And just for legal reasons, we are listener-supported 91.5, the Rebel HD2, KUNV Las Vegas, the broadcast service of UNLV. Thank you all again.
Right on. Power to the people.
Yes, tune in next week.